Oh yeah, this was a funny moment as well. Donald Trump defending the glories of the PRC and also the beautiful people of the People's Republic of China. I love this. I love this clip. This is one of those like Donald Trump gets real honest moments. You know, it's like the one that I always think about is when he's talking about Putin with like Bill O'Reilly or some shit, and Bill O'Reilly's like, "Well, Putin's a pretty vicious guy," and this was when he was running for president in like 2015, 2016, and he goes, "Well, we're vicious too. We're not so good ourselves." It's kind of like that, right? So one of the metas right now is that the Republicans are mad about Donald Trump apparently being much more favorable to Chinese students coming to the United States of America. Okay. Ingram, I guess, still ended up defending Donald Trump regardless, but there's the H-1B visa clip that people are very pissed off about. Let's take a look.
Like what we have right now.
And does that
the
mean
Republicans have to talk about it, Laura.
And does that mean the H-1B visa thing will not be a big priority for your administration? Because if you want to raise wages for American workers, you can't flood the country with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of foreign workers.
You also do have to bring in talent. When
we have plenty of talented people here.
No, you don't.
We don't have talent.
American workers are stupid. They're dumb. They're lazy. They're stupid. Have you seen one of these beautiful Indians, Laura? They come in here, they work tirelessly. That's right. The white American, the Caucasian, has lazy blood. Won't work, can't do it. That's awesome. Which, by the way, you know, I don't give a shit one way or another. If these are roles that you cannot currently fill within the existing talent pool, why the fuck would I care if you hire the greatest talent that you possibly could from the international labor pool? I'm on board with that. People are people, okay? That's number one. Number two, if you actually want this system to not be abused, then you have to ensure wage parity and you have to protect these workers coming in from deportation. Because if you do that, then you are actually simply bringing people in with H-1B visas because they have a highly specialized labor that cannot be replicated in the domestic market. In the absence of that, which of course no Republican will ever do, for the record, obviously, but in the absence of that, yes, companies will continue abusing that structure to get more compliant employees that are fearful of deportation if they don't play ball, if they don't work long hours, right? They will never demand higher wages. They will never demand back pay. They will never make the same demands that the domestic labor force can make because they don't have that additional externality. They don't have that additional stressor. The domestic labor force is not in fear of fucking deportation. They're simply in fear of lack of health care, which is a really good motivator in the minds of the capital owners, right? You lose your job, you lose your health care, you're fucked. Or you can't make payments on your student loan debt. These are ways to make the domestic labor force more compliant with the exhaustive exploitative practices that capital owners implement in an effort to extract higher profit margins. But no amount of super profits is enough for our capital owners, and that's why they want more subservient laborers in these highly specialized fields in many instances, and that's how the H-1B visa is exploited.
No, you don't have certain talents, and people have to learn. You can't take people off an unemployment line and say, I'm going to put you into a factory where we're going to make missiles, or I'm going to put
How did we ever do it before?
Well,
I'll
give you an example. In Georgia.
Yeah. There is truth to what he's saying here. for the record. There is truth to what he's saying here because there is no infrastructure to fucking develop talent in this country. The only infrastructure to develop talent in this country still revolves around dumping $100,000 of or saddling every single potential laborer with $100,000 in student loan debt. Okay? It's much more efficient to get a ginormous, to tap into a ginormous English-speaking labor pool with incredibly well-educated laborers waiting for the opportunity to become a part of the American labor force, okay? It's not that there aren't people who could work in these fields, for the record, in the United States of America. Of course there are. Because we're talking about like highly specialized fields. In that instance, yes, of course you need to rely on the international labor pool, especially in the absence of like there being like a farm program, a farming structure, or an educational structure that is constantly creating more and more domestic laborers that could take these take these jobs, take these roles. They're not interested in that because that requires investment, that requires long-term commitment, that requires educating the workforce, and it would also require the abolition of student loan debt in general. You know, we are just not going to do that. We're not going to do that at all. It's just not going to happen. So it's much easier to keep the structure up. But it is funny that he has to openly state this.
They raided because they wanted illegal immigrants out. They had people from South Korea that made batteries all their lives. You know, making batteries are very complicated.
Yeah, all their lives, these guys from South Korea, they love making batteries. Laura, believe me, they love making the battery. I love batteries. I love batteries, Laura, believe me. And you know what? You know who loves batteries? South Korea. They make them.
And it's not an easy thing. It's very dangerous. A lot of explosions, a lot of problems. They had like 500 or 600 people, early stages, to make batteries and to teach people how to do it. Well, they wanted them to get out of the country. You're going to need that, Laura. I mean, I know you and I disagree on this. You can't just say a country's coming in.
Who's they, motherfucker? It's your admin that did this. Like, that's the other thing. It's like, it's Stephen Miller, brother. That's your guy. Like, who is they? I'm sorry. I do not believe the American White House currently, the American federal government currently is this decentralized. Okay? I think he's just abdicating responsibility because he knows it was an incredibly stupid thing that he did. Because that was your ICE that conducted an operation in the facility, in the South Korean facility. Basically, a couple weeks after you had the South Korean leadership in the White House and you made them commit billions of dollars in IOUs to investing into, American development and American industry. And then 2 weeks later, it was such an insane thing when we covered it. Like, I couldn't believe it. It was like literally, I think it was like actually a week after Donald Trump had the Korean leadership. And then they went in and they chained these guys, right?
You invest $10 billion to build a plant and going to take people off an unemployment line who haven't worked in 5 years, and they're going to start making missiles. It doesn't work that way. There's never going to be a country like what we have right now.
Trump really sat in front of a camera and called Americans too stupid to fill jobs, and we need H-1B visa applicants to fill them. If a Democrat has said it, it would be in ads for years that Democrats hate Americans. He's talking about the 8,500 Hyundai LG factory jobs in Georgia that are seemingly not happening because Trump's a moron who deported South Korean workers in the U.S. to stand up a battery factory. 200 workers are reportedly suing ICE. Yeah. Rare Trump L, brother. Why'd he say that? Yeah, what do you do in that situation if you're a Trump guy and you hear him saying that on Fox News? You go, yeah, that's right. I am stupid, my president. President Trump, you are right. I am stupid. Laura Ingraham thinks we can pull this off in 4 years. This is a 12-year development project. Changes during the last decade in a random Tier 4 city, Puyang, China. Dude, if you showed, honestly, I think, especially given the heightened contradictions in the United States of America, if you show this shit to the average hog, they would learn to sing Red Sun in the Sky the next day in perfect Mandarin, okay? In perfect Chinese. Like, this would cause the average American to have a brain hemorrhage, to have an aneurysm. I think that's part of the reason why they turn around and they're like, nah, it's not real, it's fake, brother, it's fucking fake. You know? Or they have to cope and fucking seethe and try to act as though it's not real. This is not real. This is not real. China is a backwater state run by peasants. They're poor, they're broke, and the government's always making them do things at gunpoint. Unlike me, brother, I'm free. That's how you did it for me. I remember hopping off the stream one day and going, what's that one Chinese song? Yeah. But Hasan, there wasn't a river there before. How is there a river now? What happens to the food production loss from the farmland laws? Brother, do you know how massive China is? What do you think is going on? You think they're just starving now in China? Look at all that farmland. Look at all that farmland that turned into a city. If there's one thing that China has in abundance, it's fucking farmland, okay? I think they got that down. I love that take, though. Just curious, is all farmland there? No, exactly. Did food prices increase after destroying all that farmland? No, as a matter of fact, as The Economist and Bloomberg was reporting earlier that we covered, it's not that they have the Chinese problem, according to The Economist, is not that food prices are too high. It's actually that they're too low. Remember. Oh, also, it just passed. The House passed a bill to end the government shutdown, but I cannot connect to this website for some reason. Probably because it's my VPN is routing me to Hong Kong, and maybe Hong Kong doesn't allow browsing those sorts of websites. So that was the H-1B visa thing. Okay. But there is more. This part of the Laura Ingraham interview was also very funny.
You've said as many as 600,000 Chinese students could come to the United States.
No, it's not working.
Why, sir, is that a pro-MAGA position when so many American kids want to go to school and they're...
Damn, that was fast. Another one you could try. I don't think we're going to be able to watch these, man.
Elections and Democratic wins in some key
okay, this
states.
one worked.
And they said that they could have gotten a lot more when it comes to health care, in particular as people, 22 million people or so who rely on those subsidies could see, they're already seeing their premiums increase, and a lot of them are various. Some of them say absolutely gutted by the outcome of this, but the Democratic divisions were on full display here, and very clearly on this vote, 6 of them breaking ranks, just like 8 of them did in the Senate as well, Anderson.
Monteraju, thank you. Up next, once again, the breaking news. The House voting moments go to end the 43-day shutdown of the federal government, the longest in history, and we'll have more on the Jeffrey Evans.
A lot more. They got nothing. I mean, what can you say that hasn't been talked about already? As a product of the Ivies, let me tell you, Chinese students are going to stop coming while Chinese universities are going to start lobbying the Western elite. Why am I talking like fuck? Why do I have an Irish accent all of a sudden? Chinese universities are going to start lapping Western elite institutions. They'll still send their fail sons to Harvard and Yale, though. Lol. Yeah, I was talking to someone here about this, actually. So, for the longest time, first of all, let me dial it back real quick. Number one, Chinese people are Ameriboos, just like I am, right? They have great respect and reverence for America. Chinese foreign policy throughout history has always, gone back and forth, but usually aligned with the United States of America at times, right? And China has always looked to America as a prosperous nation, right? And there are a lot of aspects of like modern Chinese culture that is very American adjacent as well. Now, of course, they have a rich tradition, long history, Confucius principles, all that stuff. But like there is some American style attitudes, especially when it comes to like commodity consumption, right? Like this is unexpected in a place like China, or even a car reliant infrastructure in many ways as well. I've talked about this before. And because of that, there has always been great respect for sending your children to Western institutions, specifically the American Ivies. Okay? That's a huge thing in China. Being able to send your highly educated children to Harvard, especially, like the American Ivies especially, is a big deal, right? It's a sign of prestige. It's a sign that you've done the it's a status symbol. You've done the ultimate thing, right? Having said that, these last couple of years have actually, from what I understand, kind of shifted the Chinese attitude towards the Ivies a little bit. Apparently, there was like a Chinese valedictorian or something like that gave a commencement speech at Harvard, and it was actually critically panned for the first time ever. What was supposed to be a moment of great respect, oh, look, a Chinese person is like speaking and delivering a commencement speech at Harvard, was apparently very critically panned by the Chinese. And part of that was because it came across as insincere, apparently. And the other reason is because the prestige of the Ivies, specifically even Harvard, the most significant one, right, is kind of going away, especially as Chinese institutes of higher learning are making waves, and they are becoming more influential, more prominent institutions of higher learning in the global stage. So, and I remember looking at the top 20 best universities around the planet, and like there is a lot of movement in the direction of China there, right? Like Chinese universities are becoming respectable institutions of higher learning, even by Western standards. Yeah, 8 out of the top 10 leading research institutions in the world are now Chinese, according to Nature.com, the 2025 Nature Index, the authoritative ranking on this. In 2020, just 5 years ago, 8 of the top 10 were Western. And now 8 of the top 10 research institutions are Chinese. Harvard is no longer in the top, the number one slot either. And if you look at the top 30, 19 of them are Chinese. Almost 2/3 of the top 30 research institutions in the world are Chinese. So this attitude is shifting, and it's actually a threat to these American institutions in some ways. Not only because it diminishes their prestige in the global stage, and that's an important part of soft power in general, but it also is consequential because the foreign students basically prop up these colleges. They are a fucking money faucet. Okay? So when Donald Trump turns around and says, like, fuck these colleges. If you don't, sign a loyalty pledge to Israel, we're going to cut your funding. Oh, we don't want any more international students. Fuck you. When he says shit like that, he has to inevitably go back and take back those considerations, take back those words, because I assume he got numerous boss calls from very wealthy alumni from all over these elite Ivy League institutions that said, dude, what the fuck are you doing? One, this is a massively consequential brain drain method that we designed for decades that you're just casting aside. You're literally getting some of the smartest individuals that are the children of some of the wealthiest individuals all around the world to come here and try to work in America and play a formative role in our public research. Like, why the fuck would you personally destroy that system? And the other reason is that that's a major amount of funding that just goes away because foreign exchange students, like foreign students, pay double the price of admission. We have diamonds in the rough that nobody ever gave a shot, man. Brother, I understand. Okay. I am an advocate for free college. Okay. Not just K through 12. I'm an advocate for funding our education. Having said that, this is not even fucking fixing that at all. This doesn't touch that at all. As a matter of fact, this is the only appropriate solution that someone like Donald Trump will ever implement. Instead of actually building an infrastructure of education that taps into the existing talent pool in the United States of America, we just end up cutting off the other side of the equation for no reason. You can do both. You don't have to do the other thing. Do you understand? In any case, here's Donald Trump going back on that previous statement on Laura Ingraham.
As many as 600,000 Chinese students could come to the United States. Why, sir, is that a pro-MAGA position when so many American kids want to go to school and there are places not for them and these universities are getting rich off Chinese money?
Sure. Never said about China, but we do have a lot of people coming in from China. We always have, China and other countries. We also have a massive system of colleges and universities. And if we were to cut that in half, which perhaps makes some people happy, you would have half the colleges in the United States go out of business.
So what?
Well, I think that's a big deal.
Are they fans
You would have the
of the United States?
Yeah, but you would have, as you know, historically, black colleges and universities would all be out of business. You would have a system of colleges and universities would go down the tubes.
So we're dependent on China to keep our university system going?
But I think it's good to have, I actually think it's good to have outside countries. Look, I want to be able to get along with the world.
They're not the French. They're the Chinese. They spy on us. They steal our...
They're not the French. They're the Chinese. They spy on us. They steal from us. By the way, I will remember what I told you about J.D. Vance when he said China is a backwater nation led by peasants a couple months ago. Remember when I said that will make waves in China? That did make waves in China. They were fucking pissed about that shit. So they do actually pay close attention to the xenophobic language. They do pay close attention to like this kind of racist nonsense. And it does piss them off. For sure. They see this shit. They're not the French, they're Chinese. They steal from us. Is fucking ridiculous, dude. It's just pure unfiltered racism. Let's see how Trump responds.
property.
What, do you think the French are better?
Yeah.
I mean, really? I don't know. I'll tell you, I'm not so sure. We've had a lot of problems with the French, where we get taxed very unfairly on our technology, where, you know, they put 25% taxes on American products. Look, assuming everyone treats us badly, because that's the way I am, but we take in trillions of dollars from students. You know, the students pay more than double when they come in from most foreign countries. I want to see our school system thrive, but at the same time, I know you and I disagree. We're never going to agree on it, but that's okay. And it's not that I want them, but I view it as a...
I don't want them, Laura. I don't want them at all. The bullet pierced his ear, but he can still hear the voice of the party is right. By the way, I don't think a lot of Chinese people know that Donald Trump is the great nation state builder for China. I don't think they know that, because I keep testing that out on unsuspecting Chinese people that I encounter around here, and they don't understand what I'm saying. Partially because they see a swagged out white boy and they just assume that I'm probably engaging in mockery, and I harbor anti-Chinese sentiment, which I do not. But yeah, they don't. I don't think it's as like big of a meme on the Chinese netizen side as I thought it was. When I was a child, I remember my uncle and aunt showing off that they lived in the U.S., had good jobs, and my cousin was fluent in English. They visited us last year, and their attitude is completely different. We know, but it's probably your way of approach. Probably due to translation. Try Chuan Zhangguo. They would not think you are half joking. Citrus brother, why do you do this? I'm lemon brother. They won't disclose their true feelings to you, Jersey boy. They do when they realize I'm a real one, but I've talked about this before. It's just like it. If all you have seen from people who look like me and sound like me is very negative sentiment, then you're going to assume that I'm engaging in mockery and not actual flattery. I get it. Quote more Mao, then they would know you're a real one? No. Another conversation that I had about Mao Zedong was met with shock. I talked about this book I'm reading about the history of the Red Book, like how the quotations from the chairman was compiled, and the impact that it had around the globe. And this person I was talking to was like actually shocked. They're like, "What? Like people actually care about Mao Zedong? What the fuck? Outside of China?" Like, I was like, "Yeah, of course." Especially in the global south, and also Albania, which is the true champion of the global south, of course. The entry point to the global south is it runs through Albania. But yeah, Enver Hoxha mentioned. But I was no, they don't think that, they think that the USSR was or at least the people I've talked to have believed that the USSR was more impactful in terms of ideology and spreading ideology in general. Mao was a dictator, yes, a dictator for the proletariat, in charge of a dictatorship of the proletariat. You're my fave Persona character. Show them this photo. You are a real one. Most Chinese people actually don't really know anything about politics or political science. I don't think that's correct. I don't know where you got this information from, but Trump, the nation founder, is actually outdated meme, so most people today won't get it. The nation founder. Most Chinese people actually don't really know anything about politics or political science. I think they're not as they're not as tapped into like the everyday affairs, but as far as like political history goes, I think Chinese people are very well read about their own political history. And as far as like choosing, as far as like there was a quote that I read that lives in my mind forever about I I think it was a Chinese businessman that was asked about whether they prefer Deng or whether they prefer Mao or whether they prefer Xi Jinping in terms of like impactful leaders in developing the modern Chinese state. And he said he used I'm sure someone can find this on Twitter, but he used a analogy of dumplings, where he said that it's impossible to choose, because when you eat the fifth dumpling and you are no longer hungry, it's not that you don't go, oh, it was this fifth dumpling that finally made me no longer be hungry. It was the 4 dumplings that came before it that contributed. You don't just look at the 5th dumpling and say, okay, all I needed to do was eat this 5th dumpling and I would no longer be hungry. I butchered the quote, but if I could find it, because it lives in my mind, and I'm really bad at recall on quotes like that. You cannot only eat the 5th dumpling and assume that it was the 5th dumpling alone that caused you to no longer be hungry. I'm a Chinese student being in the U.S. for 8 years, paid double the tuition and contribute to American AI industry, but I'm treated like a spy. Yeah. I'm sure the hive mind in here could find the actual quote. Chinese netizens' analysis on Zoran. I've heard of you nut on the last stroke, but the first stroke is just as important. That's a much grosser way to analogize that. I mean, it probably wasn't in English. No, I read it in English. You cannot eat the 5th dumpling that satiates you without eating the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th one. Yeah. You can't just point to the 5th dumpling and say, this is the one that satiated my appetite. I should have just skipped it and ate the 5th dumpling without recognizing. Yeah, it's steamed buns. Yes. It is. The version I heard was steamed buns. It was steamed buns. It wasn't dumplings. Sorry. As a Chinese, I don't know anything about this quote. I mean, it's not like a famous quote or anything. I just read it and it was a cool analogy. It was steamed buns. I've heard reforms coming from both top down and bottom up, but this is the first time I've seen one starting from the middle. I hope this guy survives to the end. After studying so much revolutionary ideology, don't forget the old saying, where there's life, there's hope. Reforms are usually top down, while bottom up reforms are often revolutions. I'm quite afraid he'll commit suicide in his room in a few days. Oh no. If successful, he will be the second Franklin D. Roosevelt, no background version. Do not return home until you are fluent in the mother tongue of Cantonese Mandarin. Yeah, you can't just look at this one dumpling. You can't just look at the 5th dumpling or the 5th steam bun and say, okay, all I have to do is eat this 5th steam bun. Your kind of steam buns on memorizing quotes? Yes. It's called mantu. I'm going to translate some of these and at you with them. It's called mantu. You can't attribute being full to the 5th steamed bun. So it is a thing. Okay, so it is actually a thing in steamed buns or dumplings. Which do you prefer? Oh, God, it's very tough. I love both. Chinese netizens are a bit critical about Zoran's lack of experience, but to be fair, Chinese mayor has like 5 PhDs and 125 years of experience. I know. They're also thrown into like the most competitive environment. That's another thing. So the Chinese local governance structure is so invested in constant feedback and also in unimaginable amounts of competition with other localities. This is something that like people don't realize at all. People just assume that there's like top-down leadership and the party hierarchy dictates who gets to be in positions of power. It's like the exact opposite. It's actually bottom-up leadership, and there is an insane. No, it's not local pride at all. No, it's pure. It is as close as you can get to the meritocratic approach in governance, where there's a constant stream of feedback coming in from the citizens over and over again about the performance of their electeds, okay, their elected representatives. And then on top of that, there's also a competitive structure that exists within different localities as well. Yeah, they have a hotline of random inconveniences. They run into like potholes, for example, and the government actually fixes them. Yes, and if they don't, they basically got like a real Yelp review system for governance. We cannot use the period before the opening and reforms to deny the contributions of the era after, and we cannot also use the period after opening and reforms to deny the contributions of the era before. How was the Li Jingjing interview experience for you? It was great. Please stop sending me predictive history content, please. Bro, I've never seen as much anti-China propaganda content being shipped from your trip. I mean, what do you mean? I'm like a fucking magnet for the freaks. I'm a magnet for the worst freaks in American politics.
We have millions and millions of people. Also, I want to get along with countries if possible. You know, people are shocked. Remember, Hillary Clinton said, we'll be in a war. I stopped 8 wars in the last 9 months. I don't want to be in wars. If I am in a war, we're going to win the thing fast, and it'll be violent. But you know what? I don't want to be in wars. But one thing, you don't want to cut half of the people, half of the students from all over the world that are coming into our country, destroy our entire university and college system. I don't want to do that.
I wouldn't lose any.
And don't forget, MAGA was my idea. MAGA was nobody else's idea. I know what MAGA was.
He invented MAGA. I invented it, except it wasn't. It was actually Ronald Reagan.
It's better than anybody else. And MAGA wants to see our country thrive.
Can you describe to someone ignorant a little about Mao Zedong? He is the founding father of the People's Republic of China and led the country out of tremendous struggle, a century of domination and colonial exploit, and civil war, and then additional imperial domination coming from Japan. 20 million to 30 million murdered, slaughtered, often overlooked aspect of World War II was the horrific war crimes that Japan contributed to. But basically, he took China out of civil war, Japanese invasion, World War II, and yes, there were a lot of growing pains in the process, 100%, many of which that the Chinese government now officially recognizes as well. And yeah, he was a brilliant guerrilla fighter and a thought leader that was able to create a socialism with Chinese characteristics that has led to tremendous gains and turned China into the superpower that it is today. The thing is, when we look at centuries of development that took place in the Western world and all of the sometimes necessary and sometimes totally unnecessary amounts of pain, specifically pain extracted from the colonies, we never factor that into the development of the Western world and the way that we look at the USSR or the way that we look at China and their own growing pains that took place. Yeah, he was the first steamed bun in the steam bun analogy. I think it's important not to diminish the historical struggle that took place, right, and the failures along the way. It's important to learn from those lessons. But having said that, I think in the Western world, a lot of Western thinkers look at all of those growing pains as like deliberate acts of violence, and they just lie about it. And they make it seem, they overemphasize that in an effort to undermine the accomplishments of countries that were able to assert autonomy and take control over their own destiny by way of delivering the power back to the people that were the dispossessed masses historically. Before Mao, China had no sovereignty, and what is a country without sovereignty? While he made mistakes later in his life, we never questioned his intentions. As she put it, the rejuvenation of the Chinese nation. Mao is the founding father of the CCP. Mao is not the founding father of the CPC. At the time, he was just a member of the party, which had just had 50 members in 1921. No, I'm saying he's seen as the founding father of the modern state of China, which is true. I didn't say he was the founding father of the Communist Party of China. I'm saying that he's the founding father of the nation state by American understand. Like I'm using the American understandings, like American terminology. You really need to visit the Museum of the First National Congress, man. Yeah. You're discounting the she? What do you mean? We are linking up with Jake and Bake in half an hour. It would be nice to get a different generation's perspective. I mean, I will say this much from my own personal experiences, and it's albeit very limited. I think younger Chinese people that live in big cities are probably a lot more liberal in their worldview. And the older generations that saw the tremendous changes are much more they're much more supportive of the party structure and the current form of governance. The grass is always greener, but I wouldn't say across the board. I'm not saying that is the case across the board. Lunoy talked about this dynamic in Vietnam. Once COVID hit, the liberal agitators really had no leg to stand on. In China, it will probably be the same thing sometime soon, given that Trump, without a doubt, will do something completely insane. I mean, Vietnam also had a different approach, I think, to implementing their own communist or socialist governance than China did. Vietnam is definitely different in terms of reforms. Vietnam policy very similar to China? No, I know, but it's not. Do you view the USSR or China as more effective socialism? I'm going to go back to the steam bun analogy, you know? One cannot exist without the other, it seems. Whether it be to learn from the mistakes of other attempts in order not to repeat them, or even all of the reliable support that they got initially. Bro, you're getting so much use out of those, too much use out of those damn steam buns. A Vietnam trip at some point in the future? Yeah, I would love to go to Vietnam. Was he always this bad and we just didn't see it? I mean, I knew he wasn't going to be as conservative as I would like, but I never imagined he'd be anti-American like this. It's just so brutal, says Conservative Girl 99. Talking about the H-1B visas. To put this into perspective, 80 years ago, America was coming out of a depression and rebuilding into an industrial powerhouse. China was being invaded and brutalized and had to go through a civil war and is now surpassing America when we had a massive head start. Yeah. China is much better organized / run than the USSR. Come on. No, I'm saying that the benefit of Chinese governance in this instance was the very fact that they examined closely the mistakes of the USSR. This is their own admission. It's not, it's not a secret. They say it all the fucking time. Yeah, they look at, the USSR no longer exists, right? It no longer exists. So obviously, at the end of the day, that is the ultimate. It was, not entirely the fault of their own. Obviously, they had to go through the Cold War, but they lost at the end of the day. And it's not like America is not ambitious in its adversarial relationship with China, but the very fact that China has become the manufacturing base of the entire planet has made it much more difficult to deal with in the same way that the capitalist forces dealt with the USSR. That is looking at the mistakes of the past and building a different version of socialism from said mistakes.
From the right, remember, Democrats believe you should get zero benefits from your American citizenship. Zero. Meanwhile, as we sit in our warm studios, and that's where I am, the president's trying to reindustrialize only the entire United States of America. That's all. And if you think Mamdani or the squad, they're going to stand up for you in their workers' garb and they're going to, in their shirt sleeves, get it all done. Maybe some of these mouthy new socialist primary candidates, they're going to get it done for you. Well, you haven't been listening to them. If you're a native-born American who grew up in something approaching a traditional household, they pity you at best and they loathe you at worst. So there's always going to be disagreements on strategy and approach, and everybody should have their say. But to the more than 77 million Americans who voted for President Trump, don't flinch. No one's better at politics than he is.
Don't do it. Don't rock the boat. Come on.
And he's a pragmatist.
Yeah. Don't flinch. Jeffrey Jedediah Epstein's bestie, by the way. Yeah, Adelita Grijalva signed the discharge petition to force the release of the Epstein files going back to the American Century of Humiliation. Oh, wait, hold on. CNN is now running side-by-side clips of Trump and Biden talking about the economy. Let's take a look.
Is this a voter perception issue of the economy, or is there more?
This is my fucking favorite, dude. Yo, I can't believe CNN is doing this. Is this the HasanAbi broadcast or is this CNN? What's happening here?
That needs to be done by Republicans on Capitol Hill or done in terms of policy.
More than anything else, it's a con job by the Democrats.
So are you saying that voters are misperceiving how they feel? Or
so when I took over, you remember?
Because you said Biden did that too, because he was saying things were great, but things weren't great.
It's synonymous, Biden and Kamala, because you didn't know who the hell was campaigning.
Why are people saying they're anxious about the economy? Why are they saying that?
I don't know that they are saying. I think polls are fake. We have the greatest economy we've ever had.
Look at the Michigan survey. For 65% of American people think they're in good shape economically. They think the nation's not in good shape, but they're personally in good shape. The polling data has been wrong all along.
Oh, the fake polls. The fake polls, Jack. The polls are fake. I know Trump is going to speak live, dude. I know. He's going to speak from the Oval soon, but I'm going to be heading out in like half an hour. She says Zoran isn't with the workers. Meanwhile, he's literally with the Starbucks Workers Union. Yeah. This is the type of shit I've been saying for years. And it's part of the reason why so many CNN watching liberals have developed animosity towards my commentary, because they are incapable of nuanced thinking. Unfortunately, I do actually think that they're capable of nuanced thinking. They just don't want to. Okay. Because it makes them feel bad. But this is my bread and butter. The very fact that CNN is now using this as, or the very fact that CNN has now also established that this was a negative, this was inappropriate for Biden to say, and using that as an example for what like Trump is doing wrong, is spectacular. It's not only truthful, but it's unexpected to hear the truth from CNN like this. It was bad when Brandon did it, and it's bad when Trump is doing it now. Background looks like a green screen. Yeah. Guys, just wait till you see the streets of Shanghai. Oh my God, dude. Just wait till you see Shanghai. You are going to lose it. It is so fucking beautiful. Support a Starbucks union picket line? Oh, yes. 100%. Where is it? There was something that I wanted to show you guys about someone's assessment, but I don't know if I have it. Yeah, Ezra Klein's take from, by the way, yet another unimaginably aged poor take from Ezra Klein. He famously said, I think I should say it before I start this episode where I'm on the Epstein story. If you force me to give you my best guess, I think this guy had a lot of powerful friends and that he was a predator and a pedophile. And those sides of his life were mostly separate. Turns out, no. Actually, it wasn't separate at all. Okay? You cannot separate the art from the artist in this case. Okay? It turns out it was all pedophilia. Okay? I don't know why he even made this bold statement to begin with, but it's just like I think there's a tendency in like the liberal intelligentsia to be like, I'm actually smarter than everybody else. And because Ezra's not stupid. I don't think Ezra Klein is stupid. Okay? I say that about other people, but I don't think Ezra Klein is a stupid guy. But I think he wants to come across as more intelligent. And so whenever he sees, I think there is a tendency among liberals when they abhor populism of all sorts. So when they see anything popular, they have to literally apply a contrarian position. They have to sit there and be like, no, the masses think this, and here's why they're wrong. Sometimes the masses are right. As a matter of fact, in most circumstances, if you want to abide by the democratic principles, the masses are always fucking right, you know? Hopefully we can educate them enough to make the right decisions, but it's just like, it's very smarmy, and I think it actually ends up creating this situation where he finds himself wrong all the fucking time because of his endless need to be like, well, if the overwhelming majority believe this thing, then it must be wrong. Right? AOC had a take. He said, this problem is bigger than one person. It actually is bigger than the minority leader in the Senate. A leader is a reflection of the party, and the Senate Democrats have selected their leadership to represent them. People were actually criticizing her, but I think she's right.
Okay, I'm right here.
Go ahead. After your question. Sorry. Right since your first week back, after 6 weeks, just how are you people that have been missing paychecks? We have snappers.
I don't know why people got mad at her for this, saying that she's like fake and she's not like aggressively criticizing Chuck Schumer or whatever. She's right. Bernie said something similar as well. They're saying that the problem is bigger than fucking Chuck Schumer. The problem is that this is what the establishment Democrats represent. And we have to change that. We have to change this attitude, and we have to basically forcibly rip control from these guys, these institutionalists. Hold on. We're going to chop it up with the locals, apparently. We're doing Shanghai 101 with Jake and Bay. He's going to show us the ropes. What? Wait, you didn't charge one of the fucking... I had it kicked this whole time. That's crazy. You cooked me. That's not true. I wanted to fucking go for way longer than that. You fucking cooked my ass, Mauricio Miranda, once again. I gave him one of the batteries to charge. Okay, I charged both of the batteries that I kept here. I already am. Entryism never works. What makes it different this time? It's not about the end goal here is not to make the Democratic Party a workers' party. If it doesn't happen, and it doesn't happen, it's a bourgeois liberal party. Okay, it represents capital interests. We know this. It is to utilize the existing avenues. It is to utilize the existing avenues. Here, I'll take off the noise gate and crank up the gain here, but I don't know if it'll work because it's hard to hear people on this thing. You are in China, brother, home of the rare earth. Can you buy a fully charged battery for sure? Oh, true. This is the rare. They got raw earth. How cold is it outside?
I haven't been out, but it's not as hot, or it's not as cold.
Oh yeah, it says 64.
Yeah, it's chill.
The voters decide the direction of the party, not the party officials. Yeah, it's unfortunately not what has happened. Hold on. I have to piss real quick. You talk to them about what we're doing today.
Okay. Chat. Today, we are going to meet up with Uncle Jakey, Jake and Bake, Wawa, and Stella Chu. The, oh, way too dank. Sorry, chat. My bad.